Welcome back to SoulShift, a podcast where science meets soul and mindset meets midlife. We're here to explore what it means to live awake in the world, to evolve, to grow, to listen to our inner wisdom, and to shift in ways that feel both grounded and expansive. Whether you're navigating the unknowns of menopause changes, or you're shedding old identities, or you're simply learning to listen more deeply to your body, this space is for you. And we're so glad you're here. Today's episode speaks to anyone who's ever wondered if it's too late to feel vibrant again, if you've ever felt stuck in your body or disconnected from your energy or discouraged by diets that don't work. This conversation will meet you right there with truth, with tenderness, and with transformation. Our guest today is someone who embodies what it means to become, to rise, rewire, and return to yourself. Lori Balue is a certified functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner and the founder of Aging Adventurously, the Holistic Low Carb Method. After losing 100 pounds and reversing years of inflammation, Lori now helps women over 50 restore their metabolism, restore their energy, and a theme we honor the most on SoulShift, Lori helps women restore their self-trust. Her message, Aging Adventurously, is an invitation to see midlife as a time of renewal and not decline. She blends functional lab science with nervous system healing, mindset work, and deep soul practices.
Welcome to SoulShift, where modern science, ancient wisdom, and real life align.
SoulShift offers a peaceful pause in your week, a gentle reminder that meaningful change doesn't have to be overwhelming.
Together, we'll discover practical tools, we'll share authentic conversations, and honor the beautiful complexity of being human. This is your invitation to breathe, to reflect, and to trust the process.
Thank you for being here. Let's shift
Gently together.
Lori, welcome to SoulShift. We're so honored to have you.
Thank you for having me. I'm so honored to be here. And when you speak about your program and your podcast and the way you relate what I do in a different thought process, it just makes me really think more about what I am doing more deeply. And so that was really cool to be able to think about all of the processes of what aging adventurously means.
Lori, your transformation is really incredible, not just physically, but emotionally and spiritually. And I would love to begin by returning to the moment where you decided to take healing into your own hands and kind of learn what shifted for you.
It kind of took a couple of years, but one of the things that was happening is I didn't go to the medical system very often, but when I did, I never felt like I was listened to. I remember going in to get some white blood cells checked, and all they did was take my blood, never said a word to me. And I went there for a year. They took my money, never said a word. I never even knew what happened. I don't know what was going on. They never gave me any information. And one of the things I did was went on the Atkins diet, dropped 12 pounds. I seemed fine. I never went back and just started living life. And so since my mom had put me on Atkins back in the day and helped me reset my metabolism when I was around 12, I kind of kept going back to that as my reset. And so another time I went to the medical system, I told the doctor, and it was my friend's husband. And I'm like, oh, he'll be a good doctor. I'll go to him, right? And I said, I have metabolic syndrome. He's just laughed at me. He said, oh, we're just going to go get a CT scan and a heart monitor, and didn't pay any attention to me, like I didn't know what I was talking about. And so those things kind of put me off the medical system. I'm like, I don't even feel like going back to these people anymore. And I think there was one more incident because I have had sinusitis, bronchitis, coughing up phlegm for years, ever since my 30s. And that happened until my early 50s, just asthma, allergies, bronchitis, sinusitis, mucus all the time. So I finally just got tired, fed up with asthma, and I kept trying to take supplements to help fix that. And one time when I went into my allergist, which I had to do every year to get on an inhaler because I couldn't breathe because I had allergies to mulberries. And I said, will I ever be able to get off the inhaler? And he said, no, you'll be on it for the rest of your life. Well, it turns out he was wrong, that they were just food sensitivities. And once I realized what was going on, I never had to go back to that allergist. I never had to get back on an inhaler. I threw away my breathing machine, but I had to go through the processes that I learned to get away from that. So I just started taking care of myself. I mean, that was basically part of the process of getting away from the medical system. They never helped me do anything. Even back when I was in my mid-30s and they told me I had PCOS, he just laughed and said, oh, you got PCOS. Like, I had no clue. He didn't say anything about what it was. And that was that. And I never had any support from the medical system because I was quiet. I didn't ask questions. I was just like, well, my mom just opened up a book. She used to open up Adele Davis. I would just do the same thing. I just started looking at books, and I started studying functional health and nutrition and started reading from everybody who said I could lose weight and get healthy if I took the carbs lower, if I went on a low carb diet and started focusing on ancestral nutrition. And so I started studying that. I started listening. I started getting hope. I started feeling empowered, and I started experimenting with food quality. And once I started doing that, I just felt like I had a path forward. There was kind of like a roadmap that somebody had already done, and that all I had to do was step into it, and I will eventually figure out what I needed to do. So I never stepped back away from that. I just kind of kept digging in and learning more about what I could do for my body.
And it sounds like trusting your body.
Yeah, trusting it, Every time I get a result, I would just look for the next process, the next step. What else can I do next?
And trusting what worked for you, for your unique biology. So, Lori, thank you for sharing that. I was going to say that I relate not only on a professional level, but a personal one as well, having experienced my own transformation and having it become the catalyst for the work that I do today. So many of the women I work with, they're all women in midlife and beyond, who are navigating their own challenges with their own food story and how they feel about their bodies. What I've noticed, though, is that so many of the women I work with have the blueprint of their food story, the blueprint of their belief system, and of course their self-worth wired into their nervous system. And you talk so beautifully about the nervous system and metabolism being connected, yet before we can help these beautiful souls understand how chronic stress or emotional dysregulation impacts weight, energy, and healing, there needs to be a reprogramming of sorts. So what would be a first and gentle step for this to happen? I'm talking about the woman who is either so connected to her story or so disconnected from her body that we need to step in first to help the rewiring process begin.
I think one of the biggest and most powerful steps that anybody can do is just take your shoes off, step outside in the dirt or the grass, put some sunlight on your skin, and just breathe. When we do that and put ourselves into a parasympathetic state and put ourselves out of the fight and flight, we can start to heal the mind and the body and start to tune into ourselves. And that is huge. I actually cannot live without that. I do it on a daily basis, and I have to reset that every day. And it's just looking at our circadian rhythm and making sure that it's functioning. And then that makes you feel more aligned and more positive so that you can deal with the stress of the day.
Absolutely. So can you give our listeners a synopsis, really, of how stress chemistry actually blocks fat burning, disrupts hormones, keeps women stuck in survival mode?
Yeah, so what can happen is when we are overly focused on the stress and think about it too much, and we're stuck in kind of like a fight and flight, like the tiger is after us. We're moving, we're running, we're trying to outrun the stress. It raises your cortisol levels. It raises our insulin levels, and it puts us into a fat storage mode. But at the same time, we've got worry turned on, anxiety turned on, depression turned on, brain fog turned on. All of those things are happening because cortisol levels are elevated to try to protect us. But at the same time, it's elevating our insulin response. And so this is causing our body to store more fat, being more inflammatory, be in a catabolic state where we're breaking down our cartilages and turning pain on overall in the body. When we have this hormonal cascade happening, we are setting ourselves up for disease because insulin levels are turned on all the time. We're craving more food. When that insulin levels are up, leptin levels are lower. because they cannot dock on those insulin sites. And so then we're hungrier. And then to feel better in our body because we're stressed, we want to eat more. And so there's this whole cascade of issues that happen in our body that cause the metabolism to malfunction, to become inflamed and overburdened because of this whole process. That's why when we get outside and ground and get that sunlight in our body and give ourselves a little bit of time to breathe, we can slow it down and give our body a chance to just relax and get out of that fight and flight and not be in that fat burning state. And the last 20 pounds that I lost was leaving a job under bright fluorescent lights above my head that were bothering my eyes. I was disrespected, disregarded, and I knew too much knowledge. The vitamin manager that I was working with didn't like me because I was not more knowledgeable than her. And she didn't want me to talk to customers. And the boss was all of a sudden like, well, let's put Lori in a corner over here and have her clean shelves and not do anything. And I was just like, really feeling overburdened, unhappy, and totally anxiety ridden with all of that process. When I left that job and tuned into myself, worked from home, what I was then able to do was to get outside and walk midday, get that sunlight in my skin. Even sometimes took myself to the nature center and walked barefoot, just in my halter short, in a sports bra, in shorts, sunlight coming down, walking barefoot. Joy would just sprout up. This is how the nervous system, you relax, you tune into what makes you feel good, and you're just able to think more clearly and feel happy again. That is so powerful.
Incredibly powerful. I feel it as you're describing it. I thank you for that. So your brand, Aging Adventurously, which we love, is just a wonderful, wonderful name to describe what you do. Can you tell us what that phrase actually means to you? And how can women reframe aging?
So aging adventurously is when you look at life as an adventure, to have adventures, to just get out and live life outside of the house. When we stay inside the house, what happens is we're stuck in a stress zone. We're actually shrinking the hippocampus. If you follow Joe Dispenza, he says one of the things that happens when we stay in the house is our brain shrinks. Your hippocampus shrinks. You got to get outside and have new activities and do things, even if it's just walking in a different direction than you normally walk. Getting outside and doing something different will grow your brain. I take road trips, which is an adventure for me, and I have to study the trip. I have to plan the trip, get excited about it. I spend a year planning these things, but it keeps my brain activated. It keeps my brain excited. And you don't have to go out and have an adventure, go and do a travel. You can just go and visit another city. I often will just go to the beach an hour and a half away, one direction or another. I live in Los Angeles County. I could go to Ventura. I could go to San Diego. I could go to any direction and go to a garden and walk around and just feel amazing. Just having that energy come into my body. To me, getting outside and having movement means that we can have life as an adventure because we're outside of the house, we're keeping ourselves excited, we're bringing the joy in, and we're doing new things. Because if we don't have adventure, we're going to get sick. If we don't have movement, we're going to die. If you're not moving, you're dying. And we have to actually tune into that and think about that. That's why I like to look at life as an adventure. It was interesting because I finished working with my client, Loretta, and at the end, she goes, I'm aging adventurously, which just really made me feel excited because one of the things she got out of this wasn't to plan a trip, was that she had a work relocation. And if she had had to do that relocation before working with me, she would have had more anxiety, wouldn't have been able to do it, would have had more stress. That job happened 6 months after working with me. She was calm, collected. She looked at it as an adventure. She goes, I could go to work early, get out of work and go for a walk at the beach and just explore and enjoy the coast on my way home. And she looked at that as something that made her feel grateful to have better health, because she was able to reverse cognitive decline and accept what she was doing in a more calm fashion, which was really cool to know. You know, aging adventurously to me is being excited about life, finding your roadmap and creating your vision and just making plans to go out and have fun on a daily basis, maybe a weekly basis. Get out of the house for a walk, movement. And I like to go for hikes on the weekend. I like to go to gardens. We have the Descanso Gardens here. We have Huntington Library. I like to get out and just have a cup of coffee there just in a new environment, which makes you feel more excited. So I think aging adventurously is when we feel calm, in control of our life, and we get out there and do what we want to do. Is planning your life and being in trust of your body and knowing that you can feel comfortable doing what you want to do. I wake up every morning not having to worry about gaining weight. I've lost the 100 pounds. I'm in maintenance. I'm not gaining the weight back. I can wake up and feel amazing. I trust my body. It feels amazing. It just feels good. And I could get outside and have a walk and not have any pain in my body when I walk. To me, that's an adventure.
And it sounds as though you are living in abundance rather than scarcity. I often explain this to my clients. Expanding our presence on this earth, and expanding has nothing to do with the size of your body, right? It's the size of your soul. Expansion versus subtraction. And here you reframe aging as that time of expansion as opposed to decline. I love that. It's really, truly wonderful. Thank you, Lori.
Yeah, Lori, thank you so much for sharing all of this. I mean, I think what a beautiful gift you're giving your clients and giving us today to just think about everything you mentioned about aging adventurously, going on a walk or going to the local botanical gardens. I mean, that is a huge part of being healthy. And I'm so glad you're reminding us that the importance of the simple things like touching the earth and facing the sun in the morning and what a giant impact those simple things can make on our overall health. I know that you also use functional lab testing in your practice. What do you find that those functional lab tests reveal for clients that you work with?
Well, one of the things that I look for are the hidden healing opportunities to help reduce inflammation in the body so that you feel good enough to make the changes. And so often when clients come to me, they're still feeling tense. They're feeling anxiety. They're not sure what's going to happen, but they're trusting me. And so I'm running the labs to show them what's going on in their body. And the very first one that I run is the MRT food sensitivity test. Let's find out what your body is reacting to so we can reduce the inflammation quickly and give you some pain reduction and help you get some weight loss. So these are really quick wins that happen in the first month. And then the other one that's really big is an HTMA, which is the hair tissue mineral analysis. And what this is really going to do is help me balance your magnesium, potassium, sodium, and calcium so that your adrenals are functioning better and you're feeling better and your thyroid can function better. And this is something that you could do as a health hobby. And that's the other thing of aging adventurously. You got to look at it as a health hobby. When you run these labs and you manage this once a year with just taking your body in and giving it a checkup, like we do our cars, you're being proactive with your health so that you don't age rapidly. So you slow down aging. That's all part of aging adventurously. Taking control of your health and being able to see what it is that you can control. If you get to control what you're doing to your body, then you're going to be empowered to say, this body works the way I want it to, and I am programming it with the food that I'm eating, with the nutrients I am putting in it. But, once you know exactly what's going on in your body, you could remove the ones that are causing you to be sick and ill and having pain. I had a client that lost 95% of pain. She would come home from work. She had to get a scooter for the house. She would come home, collapse after every meal. 6 months with me, she had 95% less pain reduction and 1.5 feet in size reduction on her foot and her whole life back. This is just taking out the food sensitivities and reducing what's happening inside the body. And there's also, we could run a GI map test. When you run a GI map test, you could fix the digestion. Like what's going on with digestion? What's going on with your bacteria? Do you have low stomach acid? And do you have low commensal bacteria, or are they overgrown? Because if your bacteria are overgrown, you could be in an autoimmune state. And so those are some things that we can look at and correct. And the diet goes hand in hand with all of this. You're getting the information, then you tailor and customize your nutrition so that the body functions the way you want it to. And so we don't have to be stuck. We could take the next step, fix your food sensitivities, fix the leaky gut, and then you feel better. Once you feel better, you go on to the next step. And it's not something you have to do in a day. You don't have to go full restrictive on your diet. There's also the Dutch test, which is going to help us analyze what's going on with your cortisol and adrenals, as well as seeing what's going on with your hormones. And if your estrogen is detoxifying or if it's stuck somewhere, we get to see that, and it correlates with the GI map. So I never run just the Dutch. I run the Dutch with the GI map because they correlate between each other. I run a total of 6 labs. And when you put them all out in front of you and look at the health intake and a metabolic analysis and thyroid questionnaire and your symptoms, the client's symptoms, you could see the whole picture of what needs to be corrected and then guiding that. This is so much power to live adventurously, choosing health as your self-care at home. Like Dr. William Davis says, you take care of your body at home. He's a cardiologist. He says, undoctor yourself in your home, in your kitchen. That's where it starts. And for me, it also starts in the backyard, putting our feet on the ground, letting the sun heal our body, and getting excited about what we could do.
Right. So here we are on SoulShift, and we are all about the intersection of science and soul that you so are beautifully putting together for us. So how do you weave into this intersection of science, mindset, faith, or self-belief into the work that you do with women? Because you're talking a lot about self-trust. You're talking a lot about unlearning and unbecoming how so many of us are wired. So how do you begin to weave in the proper mindset and faith, if that's appropriate?
I think the biggest thing is, I mentioned my conviction and my certainty and my lived experience is very powerful for women to be able to hold on to when they're not sure what they need to do. And so as I guide women and my clients into the direction they need to go, one of the things that I want to do is give them their self-trust back, to turn off the depression, the fatigue, the brain fog, and bring them back to clarity. When we can bring more energy to our body, to our brain, we can make different decisions and we can feel calmer. I'm making sure that the body is being nourished so that you could heal fast, so you can get your brain to function, but we can still eat food that makes us feel good. We just have to find the right foods that give us the right information to program our body so that the body will heal, because we have to eat. We want to feel good. We want more energy. We just have to program the body to get there.
I want to just stress here is that we're not certainly here to advocate any one particular diet. I think that's very important for us to state, because we will have listeners that will hold on to our every word. And we want to make sure that any program you go on that is restrictive is done so with the support of a professional.
I want to circle us back to, Lori, we started this whole conversation and you brought up like going out and facing the sun and touching the earth and the importance of all of those things. And if there is one suggestion you could give the woman who's listening right now, who's pretty excited about some changes she'd like to make, what would you say is just begin here, begin with this simple technique? And maybe you said that in the beginning begin with tomorrow morning facing the sun. Where do we begin? Or do you have a different simple, grounded suggestion that kind of everybody needs in order to improve overall health and longevity?
What we can do is we can lower and eliminate ultra-processed foods and just eat whole foods to the point where you feel better and have less brain fog. And then that can help motivate us to get outside and want to step out on the earth and want to get outside and have movement. I think that's really powerful to help you make the decisions to get more movement and to be more activated.
Lori, your message is certainly inspiring. It's transformative, it's inspiring, and will certainly be a gift to many. So please tell our listeners where they can find your work and what you have available right now.
Yeah, so I do have free discovery calls. So you can find me at loribalue.com. That's Lori, Lori, and that's Balue. It's like value with the B. So BALUE at loribalue.com. And, there's always something that I like to leave the listeners with is, as we age, we need to be able to get down on the ground and get back up again and play with our grandkids and get back up again. So we want to be able to do that. So your life is precious. You're priceless. It's so empowering to know we can do that. You can see my lifestyle on Instagram. I'm at Lori Balue Weight Loss on Instagram. I have my YouTube station. It's Lori Balue Weight Loss. If you want to get on a call with me, I have free complimentary discovery calls. And I'm at loribalue.com. So I'm here for you.
That's great. And if there's one thing that our listeners can take from today's conversation, it's that it is not too late.
Mm-mm.
You are not too far gone. And you certainly are not broken, right? And the message today is that your body is not past the point of healing. You are becoming. and your biology is just waiting to remember how good it can feel to be you again.
Lori, thank you so much for joining us today.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Yes, thank you. And thank you to our listeners for tuning into SoulShift. Every episode, we invite you into these conversations to remind you that transformation is possible. And it's not about becoming someone new. It's about becoming home to who you've always been. So be sure to follow us, leave a review if we resonate with you, and share this episode with a friend who might need a little hope today. And until next time, be gentle with yourself and always stay curious.
Thank you for sharing the sacred time today.
We hope something in this conversation touched your heart
and offered nourishment for your soul's journey.
Remember, transformation is most effortless when it happens one tender shift at a time.
Until next week, we invite you to carry one insight from today into your life.
Not as a task.
Think of it as a superpower to yourself.
If something resonated, we'd love to hear from you. If you're joining us on YouTube, feel free to leave us a comment below.
Your words ripple outward, offering connection and comfort to others walking this path beside you.
If SoulShift feels like home, please subscribe and consider leaving us a review.
Your support will help us reach more hearts that need to hear they're not alone.
We're holding you in love, so know you're not alone. Your journey matters.
May your heart be filled,
and may your path be filled with grace.